everyone, it's Nina and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing a bookshelf reorganization video. So this came about because I wanted to reorganize my main bookshelf that I have in my living room, and I wanted to move all of my read books over there so that if people come over and look through my bookshelf, I can kind of like talk about the books with more confidence because they'll be ones I've actually read. And since that's a more like prominent part of my apartment, I figured it'd be nice to have them more on display there, whereas the books I keep in my bedroom here are ones I kind of often forget about. So with that in mind, I'm going to reorganize the bookshelf over there and move around some of the books from the different bookshelves in my apartment. I'm also going to talk about every single physical book that is on my TBR and show you all the books that I own that I have not yet read. So with that intro out of the way, let's get in the video. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this top shelf up one, and my plan is that I need to make these shelves more even because this one is really short, so it only really fits the like mass market paperback size. But if I make it up one, then it'll fit this like standard paperback size book better. And then if I need to, I can move some of the like shorter books from down here up here, so that I have room for like the really tall like adult hardbacks, which is like the category I have the least amount of books of anyway. So I think it'll even out if I move this one up.
Shiny Scroopy!
What? Yay! The twin!
I was like, what is shiny? Oh, he's so pretty!
Do you want to show him?
He's red!
Ta-da!
He's so pretty.
Beautiful. That's a great random.
Oh, yes.
Shiny you got there.
I got him on camera.
Beautiful. Okay, so now this. Oh, that's actually way
Never
too
mind,
much.
I'm full.
Okay, this still fits. Oh, this is really tall now. Can this fit here?
Hell yeah.
Okay,
Oh.
sweet. So I actually can't do a lot more. I thought that this was gonna make it much more difficult. This is a level still. Okay. Okay, so what do I want to do? I think top shelf I want to put maybe some of like my favorite books. Actually, can these fit in here? No, you're too fat now. Okay, so he would have to go here, or he'll stay down there.
There were two different versions of the Paper Towns cover. One where she
Yeah,
was sad,
the
and
one-
one she was happy.
Wait, is this the happy one?
That's the happy one.
There's also one with like the bing, like the little like pin that's on it.
more recent.
Gotcha. This Abundance of Catherine's one is
Weird.
really ugly.
Okay.
Not to be judgmental.
I mean, you're not wrong. This isn't super ideal, but
but I think that's all I can do for the current time period. Okay, we are back. So let's talk about the books that are on my physical TBR. So I went ahead and did a rough count, and from my estimation, I have around 40 books that I own that I have not yet read. There are booktubers that do book hauls like every other month that are around 40 to 50 books, and my question for them is how? I'm currently like at max capacity. I cannot physically hold any more books than what I currently have, and I only have 40 books on my physical TBR. I think it also is hindered by the fact that I am in a one-bedroom apartment and my bookshelf space is rather limited. I only really have like one Billy bookshelf worth of space available to me. But I also feel like I've been pretty good, and whenever I want to read a new release, I usually try to wait until it comes out at the library instead of like running out and purchasing it right away. But I still have accumulated quite a lot of books, so we're going to go through all the piles I have next to me right now. These are in no particular order. I literally just grabbed them off my shelves and made these piles here. Some series or certain authors are kept together, but for the majority, these are just kind of in completely random piles. My first set of books are my copies of Lord of the Rings. These are like these movie cover editions that I got at a library sale. Even if the covers are a little ugly, I really like the spines, and I'm really happy that I have like a matching set of all three of them. And eventually I will read this. I kind of exited my Lord of the Rings phase, at least for the current moment, but I'm still really excited to have these and will read them in the future. Next book I have here is Golden Hand by Garth. I got this in Portland. This is the 5th book in the Old Kingdom series. I still have to get the 4th book before I can read this one, even though the 4th book is technically a prequel, so it's not necessarily like chronological order necessity that I read this after that one. But I do eventually want to get the 4th book to just like complete the set, so I'll wait until I have that before I start this one. Oh, we got a crazed boy. He's out of control. Next book I have here is a compendium of 2 books from Charles Brockden Brown. I really wanted to read Wayland back when I was really into Gothic literature, but I still haven't gotten around to it, which is why this is still on my TBR. Next one I have here is Confessions of a Mask by Yukiro Mishima. This is either autofiction or literary fiction that takes place in post-war Japan. I think this cover is so cool. It's just really, really eerie, but I haven't really found the right time to read this. I haven't really been super into literary fiction lately either. This next book is one that I've had for quite a while. It was one of the first books I included in my very first book haul on this channel. And that is this Barnes & Noble like special edition of The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. This book is so incredibly beautiful. I love the gold foiling. I love like the red accents with the blue. But as you can see, this is absolutely massive. It's over 1,000 pages. And the font is still like really, really small. So I just feel like because this is such like a chonker like doorstop of a book, it's really been putting me off from like having the motivation to start it. Next book I have is another literary fiction, and that's Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. This book I saw recommended on Jordan Reed's channel, and it sounded really interesting. It has a lot of like tropes that I really enjoy in books, so I think I will like this. It is also quite short. It's only a little over 250 pages. So once I commit to reading it, I think I will be able to move through it relatively quickly. This next book on here I'm kind of embarrassed that I haven't read yet, and that is The Trinity Prophecy by Marissa Kinzel. It's embarrassing because I actually am friends with this author, and I really wanted to support her and read more of her work, but I just like haven't found the most opportune time to read this. Next book here is Axiom's End by Lindsay Ellis. I love Lindsay Ellis. I've watched her for years, and I wanted to support her when she came out with her book. I am still interested in this, but at the same time, I'm not super into sci-fi lately, so it's been kind of like a push to get me motivated to try it out again. Next book is one that's actually on my November TBR, and that is So You've Been Publicly Shamed by John Ronson. Every single time I try to say this author's name, I want to say Ron Johnson. This is a nonfiction book that sounds really interesting. I heard about it through Ariel Bassett's channel, and I'm hoping I can get to this a little bit later on in the month for Nonfiction November. This book, I guess, technically doesn't count as TBR because I have read it before, but it was years and years ago, back when I was in high school, and that is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. This is another of the Barnes & Noble exclusive editions. It has these green sprayed edges and then a lot of like embossed details and gold foiling on it. It's also like a soft cover, so I feel like it's going to be a really nice reading experience once I decide to buckle down and read this again. This next book is another one that is on my TBR for this month, and that is The Lightkeepers by Abby Jenny. This is a thriller set on a remote island, and it sounds really interesting. This is also a very, very beautiful book. I just love the cover design. This next book I was very excited that I found at my local thrift store, and that is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I know this book was a lot of people's favorite sci-fi book from last year. I'm pretty sure this also won the Goodreads Choice Award for sci-fi. And I've also heard that this is really, really funny. I think this is the type of book that my wife would also enjoy. And I always like a book that's dual purpose so that both of us can end up reading it. Next up, we have a stack of all of the Murakami books that I haven't read. Back in high school, I read the Wind Up Bird Chronicle, which I also own, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I guess from that, I just figured, oh, he's quite a prolific writer and like very well known, that I would try and read more of his backlist. And I think my father also likes him because I'm pretty sure at least one of these I stole from his library, and the other ones I found through Barnes & Noble and thrift stores. So we have Kafka on the Shore, Norwegian Wood, Underground, and Hardboiled Wonderland at the End of the World. The one that I am honestly most excited about is Underground, which is actually a nonfiction book that talks about the sarin gas attacks in the 1990s in Japan, which is something I did a little bit of research on when I was in college. Next book here is one of the only graphic novels on this list, and that is Bloom. I went to read this over the summer. I even brought it to a couple occasions that I thought would be the perfect time to just have something light and fluffy, but I didn't get around to it. I honestly am kind of losing interest in this a little bit. I probably will give it at least one good shot, and if it's not 100% a 5-star, I'll probably end up giving this to a friend. Next book here is another one I got in Portland, and that is Forest Fall by Lyndall Clipstone. This is the second part in a duology. I really enjoyed the first part, Lake's Edge, which I have talked about in other videos. I've been a little bit busy. I meant to read this earlier on as soon as it came out, but hopefully I can get it finished before the end of the year. Next book I have on this list I got from a library sale as well, and that is The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. I think this was a late night book club pick from sometime last year, but I've also heard this has really strong dark academia vibes, and I did not know that going in. I just kind of recognized the name and figured I'd add it to my bag. Since part of the book sale, it basically became under $1. This copy is absolutely filthy. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but it's really, really stained. I do really like the cover design. I like that there's this little cutout here, and then when you open it up, there's this little guy in a misty field. Next book here is another one I got at the library sale, and that is The Well of Loneliness by Radcliffe Hall. I can literally read part of the blurb in the back that says that it is the single most famous lesbian novel, which should give you a good idea of why I was interested in this book. Next book on this list is Antibodies, which is an X-Files novel. I got this more so just as a memento because we've been really into the X-Files series lately. I showed this to my friend that is much more into the X-Files, and she said that she has another one of the novelizations from the same author, and it's very bad. But at the same time, for more Mulder and Scully content, I might just have to bite the bullet and read this. Next book here is Across the Wall by Garth. This is a series of short stories that is set in the Old Kingdom universe. I'm pretty sure most of these short stories were written before the 4th and 5th book came out, so there isn't any spoilers in here that would hinder my progress with the rest of the series. So I probably will add this to my TBR sooner rather than later. These next two books are two of my Vampire Chronicles books from Anne Rice that I have not read yet. The first one is The Vampire Armand, and then I have Blood and Gold. This is Armand's backstory book, and this one is Marius's backstory book. And I will get to these eventually. I think I want to finish reading the original trilogy of The Vampire Lestat and Queen of the Damned before I read any of the other backstory books. This next book is another one that's on my TBR for this month, and that is iGen by Jean M. Twenge. This is a nonfiction book that talks about millennials and Gen Z and their connection to the internet. It sounds really interesting. I don't know if I'll read 100% of this if I find that it's a lot of stuff that's really repetitive or things that I already know, but I am interested to see if there's any new insight in here that I haven't thought about before. Because I really do love reading books that are about the internet and about youth culture. Next book on this list is Dark Corner by Brandon Massey. This is another book I wanted to read for spooky season but just kind of ran out of time. I think one of the things that's been hindering me is this book feels very long just because of how big this paperback is. But it's under 500 pages, so I don't know why I'm having such a mental block in finally starting this. This next book is one I just got. I got it as a birthday gift to my parents, and that is Fire and Blood by George R.R. Martin. This is the backstory book that House of the Dragon is based off of. I've gotten really into House of the Dragon lately. I was never that intensely interested in Game of Thrones. I did watch the first 4 or 5 seasons, but I do really like a lot of the backstory and lore of it. And I've been really, really enjoying House of the Dragon, and I wanted to read this book before the next season comes out. Okay, we're on the home stretch. We only have 5 books left to talk about. The first 2 are also very recent additions, and those are the 2 volumes of Golden Terrace. This is a recent Dane release from an independent publisher called Peach Flower Press. And these were a birthday gift from my wife. They have a great trope, which is an arranged marriage with rivals to lovers, so I think that I'm very much going to enjoy these when I pick them up. The last 3 books are all in kind of the same category of, I did read them, but it's been so long, since pre-college high school era that I read them, so I'm basically counting them like a fresh read. Those first 2 are New York, New York. These are the compendium volumes that were released recently. Again, I read these back in high school, so it's been a very, very long time. and I'm just waiting for another opportune moment to read them again. I haven't been super into my manga era, but I'm hopefully will have more motivation next year to like pick them up again. And the last book in this pile is one of the volumes of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Diamond is Unbreakable. This is the 4th volume. I also own the 2nd and the 3rd one, which I will include in this list as well. I randomly saw all the volumes at a comic book store, and I just love the design of the spines with all of like the diamonds here. And Diamond is Unbreakable is my favorite JoJo part, so I figured, yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and start collecting them. I don't think I'm going to buy the first volume just because I don't really like the start of Diamond is Unbreakable. I find that's a little bit slow. I do think that's a common theme in a lot of Araki works, though, as well. I just don't usually prefer it until after the main villain gets introduced. I also have the 3rd volume of Modazushi, as well as the last 2 volumes of Scum Villain Self-Saving System, but they are currently in the other room, so I decided to not bring them over here for this book. So that is a full look on all of the books that I own that are on my physical TBR. I hope you guys enjoyed this part of the video, as well as the bookshelf reorganization that we did a little bit earlier on. That is it from me today. Please consider liking this video or subscribing if you aren't already. Consider also following me down on the story graph if you're interested in seeing the books I'm reading in real time. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!